This is Show versus Business, where pop culture meets pop money. Your host, the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja. So, Mr. Benja, what are we getting into today, man?
Man, I didn't expect it, but we getting into some summertime beef on the grill, in the comment section, out in these streets, in the stores, in the streaming world. I didn't mean for it to be this kind of podcast this week, but I was going over the topics and yeah, we got a lot of beef going on. And the obvious one, Kendrick Lamar is continuing its video dropped. We got to talk about it, man. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about the Acolyte a little bit too, man. And things are happening, man. And that'll suffice. That should be enough to just get it going. No more intro needed on that. How you feeling, bro?
Man. So last week I did a solo pod and a little bit calmer, but man, I don't know what happened. This week was spicy, man. It was spicy, man. It's the 4th of July week as we're recording this. A lot of things are going on. Me personally, I had a chance to spend some time with family for 4th of July.
Yeah.
It's a bittersweet time because if you're African American Black person, go read Frederick Douglass' July 4th speech. So
Yeah,
you
we
always feel
we have
that.
a different take on it, definitely.
Exactly. So we're gonna have a hot dog, right? We're gonna be at the pool. We ain't gonna put on this trunks with the red, white, and blue, and all
Yeah.
that. But it's an interesting time. But needless to say, it was fun. Spend time. I'm putting my grill master on, going to the Airbnb, about to do some stuff, man. And I saw the grill. I said, okay, I should do a little something. So I tested it out the day before. Everything was fine. It was one of those
Uh-huh.
propane gas grills, thinking everything's fine. I said,
Uh-oh.
okay, I'm ready for July 4th. So I go to the pool with the family. We had a good time, just relaxing around noon. I said, okay, let me start doing this. I already had my meat already seasoned, my veggies, got my little veggies ready to go, my corn on the cob. So I had it already, just walking over to the
Yeah.
grill, got my apron on. So I said, okay, let me just start this propane grill. Have you ever done a propane grill before, Mr. Benja? Let me
Actually, I
just,
have not. I've only dealt with myself, fire, and charcoal.
yes, you should stay to that because
Oh.
needless to say, propane grills are interesting because what happens is you have to turn the gas is on. So using gas, right, to get the
Right.
flame going, but you need a spark to start that flame. And so if for whatever reason that spark is not sparking correctly or there's a leak or something, you have an incident that happened to me. So let's just say
You like it?
that, yeah, let's just say I can't really go into too many details because there may be some pending situations after this, but let's just say I just saw Mario when he gets a little firepower, gets a little flower. He has some power. I saw a real life fireball, brother. It was I felt like I was a Koopa. I was like,
Oh.
oh, this is what they feeling, man. Yeah, man. It came so fast and quick. I didn't know what happened. And so yeah, got me on my arm and my leg. My arm is okay, but it got a little toasty on my leg. So
Right.
like I said, I'm okay. It was
Good.
one of those things where yeah, I don't wish that on anybody, man. So needless to say, I turned that off real quick, got my leg fixed up, and then immediately got my old charcoal grill and set it up and went to cooking, brother. I was like, man,
Oh, yes. Truth.
yeah. So I'm never, yeah. It's one of those things, yeah. You gotta be careful with those things. And so yeah, man, I'm okay, but yeah, it was a crazy week for
Well,
me.
I gotta
This
know. I gotta know. Did you get it on TikTok?
that's one of those hard things to get on TikTok, man. Yeah, but if I did, it would have been 10 million followers easily, 10 million views easily. Because my mother-in-law was around. All she heard was a boom. She said it
Yeah.
felt like a big boom. And yeah, it could have been a lot worse because you just don't know how much gas had filled up and what's all that kind of
Yeah.
mixed in there. But yeah, luckily I got escaped. And so definitely, guys, if you guys feel that, go immediately go put some cool water, not cold water, not ice. Don't put anything on it. Just let it rock. I had to look it up too myself, but just let it wash you over for a good 30 minutes over the burned area. And then usually that kind of subsides everything. And then probably take some ibuprofen to subside the pain. But yeah, it was one of those things. And then, yeah, you just have to be careful, man, with those certain grills. So that's all I'm gonna say about that at this point. But I would just say crazy weekend. I showed Mr. Ben prior to the Mr. Benja prior to this. I showed you the lovely green wrap I have around my leg. So it's interesting times.
Alright, alright. Glad you're okay, man.
Thanks.
Shame we didn't get it on TikTok. No, I joke about that, but it's a weird thing in society now where people are pulling out their phone, almost waiting on something bad to happen.
I
And
know
I
exactly.
almost we're gonna get into that a little bit, but I wonder if that's telling or that a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing where we're always waiting on something crazy or bad to happen, or we want to
Yeah.
be ready to be filmed doing something crazy. Because
Yeah, I
I
got
was
a hot
watching.
take on this too, man, but,
Okay.
I agree. I think there's a hot take on this because but go ahead into your point.
No, I was just saying that it's it's amazing. I'm, like, watching all of these videos this year, what people are putting out there, and a lot of it is people egging each other on, "Hey, let's do something crazy. Let's make sure something crazy happens. Let's get this on camera." I'm out in the store, and people are filming people doing whatever, and it amps it the media amps the whole thing up where it's, "Oh, now I'm on film. You're gonna film me? I'm gonna hype up even more in
Mm.
case I get charged with something, then I want it to be on camera. I don't wanna look like a punk on camera, or I want you to look bad on camera." It becomes this weird thing, and, back to our the Andy Warhol thing, it was like, yeah, he saw this coming, that whole
Mm.
15 minutes of fame, and then that got extended by some people to everybody's gonna get 5 minutes of fame, and it's a whole thing, man. The whole media is it's weird right now.
Not to get into your time of how your week was, but I literally wrote this down. June 24th, I said, for the first time in history, an individual human being has such an inflated sense of self. So imagine that in the history of it, we always were a part of a tribe or organization, or we were lower class, the greatest generation, right? They all felt obligated to go to war. But for the first time, one individual thinks they have so much power because they have a couple of thousand followers on TikTok, right? And so now, because there's has such a flayed sense of self, something amazing has to happen every day, right? For them to stay relevant. And so I think just this search for people that's looking for greater meaning into the everyday lives. And more importantly, I think there's also a sense in our society that we want something major to happen, right? Like a pandemic or alien invasion or something, right? Because that means our generation was the most important one, right? And so I do get a sense that we're living in such a time that people have such an inflated sense of self. And I don't think we ever had that as a human species. If you had it, it was more localized. But now that you have the internet, you got thousands of people following you, now they're putting you up on a pedestal like you're somebody great and famous just because you got a million followers on YouTube. So it's just weird time, man. And I say that to dovetail kind of what you're saying is just this whole sense of people kind of recording things and just waiting for things to happen. If it doesn't happen, can they manufacture something, right? So they can stay relevant.
Yeah, and even when money's not involved, it's properly monetized in terms of likes, shares. Instagram just put out their what do you call it? Maseri was talking, the head guy over there in Instagram. He put out the thing saying, "Yeah, listen, we've been changing the way Instagram works for a while now. It's not about so much of a friendly network, a social network. It's a media network built with
Mhm.
people. It's more like a magazine." And that's my spin. It's more like a magazine.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is it starts to, instead of valuing like the fact that you and I have conversations
Mhm.
through messages or whatever. So if it thought we were very important, it would put your content up higher because hey, we talk to each other, we like each other's posts. It should put your content in front of me. It does that less and less now and figures, "Oh, there was this I stopped on a fight video once, and now my feed is filled with fight videos because that seems to be going viral with people, so it tries to keep pushing that on me," and I'm like, "The only reason I stopped on it because it looked like a celebrity, and then I got caught up watching it. It was a celebrity, actually, we'll get into that later. It was Rick Ross, the Rick Ross fight video, so we'll get into that later. But yeah, after I watched it, a bunch of fight videos, and I'm like, "This is not what I want."
Yeah.
But I get what the system is doing. They know they're doing it, and it's a problem.
Well, let me ask you this, and shout out to Threads. I think 1 year, right? I know we
Yeah,
talked
1
about
year.
maybe doing retrospective. Maybe we'll do that next week. But I remember it was around July 4th. We sat around, this thing popped up, Threads, right? So we're just like, "What is this?" And here we are one
Yeah.
year later. But my thoughts are, it's just one of those things that all the things that are happening right now with social media and the presence of everybody just trying to stay relevant. It's just one of those things that just keep driving us. And I would say this: the algorithm's always been baked into it to
Mhm.
enrage us, for engage us by enragement. So basically, if we can create some kind of controversy or something that's just
Mhm.
wild and crazy, then that's always gets pushed, and it's always been that way. So we think that's going back. The algorithms just get better at engaging us. And to your point, we see I'm like anybody else. I see something that attracts my eye, and then the algorithms, oh, we got him. Now let's put more of that in his face, right? And it's like,
God,
oh no. The stuff that you want to hear that's positive and promoting great things and stuff, few and far between, brother. Few and far between unless you literally follow that person and actively seek them out. But it's hard.
yeah, and, I'll repeat, watch, Tabloid on Amazon Prime. I just looked it up again. It's the story of the Inquirer and how they got on and all that stuff. And yeah, it's people are out there searching for the truth, and the tabloid noise wins out. And we saw this with OJ. OJ Simpson passed away. BT honored him, and they're like, "Why are you honoring him?" And then people started throwing out all this misinformation, and I'm like, "Oh, they just stopped at." And I know this isn't a lot of the people who were there watching it. It's information passed down. So now it's younger people assuming what the older people said, and I'm like, you haven't looked into the court documents. You didn't know that
Mhm.
you didn't know that the guy they said OJ beat up was like a martial arts expert, and OJ had no scratches on him. It's just all this weird stuff that doesn't add up, right? You start to get into all these things, and it's not saying anything about OJ. If you put me on a percentage scale of whether I think he's guilty or not, people want to hear that kind of information. Not what I'm here for.
Hey, can I say, producer James, put that on tape.
Oh god.
OJ, we out here defending OJ. James, go ahead and put it on tape. No, it's up to you,
Uh,
James.
no, he deserved his honors. Um, and you got Stephen A. Smith putting him down, and then Cameron the rapper, because of Stephen A. Smith putting him down, started walking around Las Vegas in an old O.J. Simpson football uniform. Bro, it's like the culture
Yeah,
wars is comedy in some sense, but
yeah.
it starts to get real personal, man.
It's almost like you support the opposite because you're going after that other person. Or like you said, Stephen A. Smith, he's got a lot of detractors. Do you know Stephen A. Smith is up for a new contract at ESPN right now?
Oh,
He's trying to get a yeah, he's trying to
mm,
get 25
yeah,
million.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, and that would be the highest paid ESPN guy. So that's one of the reasons why he created his YouTube channel, right? To get his presence up there more. But he's got so many haters, right? And to your point, he'll put
I'm one of them.
a hot I respect what he does. I can't get mad. Look,
Yeah,
he came up the honest way. He's been on ESPN forever, right? And so I remember when he was first on there and got fired. So he paid his dues. Yeah, and then came back. I think people are taking the opposite point of view depending on who said it. And I think we're talking
mhm,
about the
yeah,
acolyte. I think the same thing is happening with the acolyte too. It's not so much about the art itself anymore. It's almost like who's against it, who's for it, and I'm going to be against it or for it, depending on that. And I
yeah,
think that's the problem sometimes.
yeah, Seth Godin was actually talking about that, and he was speaking on marketing, but he brought up a lot of his references from tribes, and this is, like, the
Mhm.
most political I think you'll ever get out of somebody like Seth Godin, but he was like, "When you're talking to your tribe, it's like the fundamental thing that you're trying to disc to perpetuate within the tribe is people like us do things like this." And it's this consistent kind of, "Hey, you're going back, you're checking your friends. Hey, oh, you listen to that guy? Are you one of us? And oh, you listen to this guy. Oh, you're definitely one of us. Come closer." So it's this continual pushing and pulling of pull some people towards you, push other people away from you. And now in a situation where we have a bit of I was about to say a recession, the economy is going through some things. It's a situation where now stuff starts to get serious. Whereas, okay, now you're playing with my money. Now you're playing with my livelihood. Now you're playing with my future. So it starts to get real, man. And yeah, speak getting real really quick. My week, I was going through some things, man. And I don't know why, but in the middle of going through some things, I was like, let me go through the comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. I went through our YouTube comments, and I love all of you all. I think you're great. Flame me in the comments. I let's go. I think the conversation is generally fun, whatever. But I'm in the YouTube comments and I missed the fact that we had struck such a nerve with the Hatsune Miku crowd. You remember the computer generated character?
Mhm, mhm,
So one thing I said in there was, I assumed I said, "I assume that they're going to add AI into her productions in the future."
mhm.
The community went after me for that one. I mean,
Really?
they were going in, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I thought it was a valid assumption, but the way it came out or the way the clip was read or the
Mhm.
way it was edited maybe, it made it sound like I was saying that Hatsune Miku is an AI thing, and that's not what
Mm,
I was putting out there. Basically, Hatsune is an instrument, if you will. So people do things and she performs their creations. So the way she dances and song the lyrics, the voice gets changed. So you can sing something and it goes through and ends up sounding like Hatsune. So there's this whole artistic community, real people with real talent. I want to make that clear. Real people with real talent putting work into making these performances. Um,
gotcha.
so $225 still a lot to pay for a concert ticket, but that's
You
for
tell me.
anybody, by the way. I'm not just saying that's for anybody, but that is surprising to a lot of people. So we put it out there, and I thought that was interesting. Point is, just a fair bit of confusion on the terms I'm using, the terms you're using, the understanding of technology, my perspective on it, your perspective on it. If any of those things don't line up, then all of a sudden we've got a mismatch and we're fighting and we don't really need to be. Because if you say AI, are you talking about machine learning? Are you talking about adaptive generative artificial intelligence? Or are you talking about automation? One of the very earliest games, Populous, used automation and randomly procedurally generated world and levels. We could argue on what it actually means to use quote unquote AI. But I thought it was interesting in that whole discussion, nobody wanted to bring up, okay, what are you trying to say? Or, hey, how come you? It was just boo, tomato, tomato,
Mhm,
tomato.
mhm.
And I was like, huh, that was my dodge move where I dodging tomatoes. I'm here
Mr.
for it, Mitch.
Benja, yeah, you're better than me, man. I'm not looking at these comments and just now looking through them. Oh, yeah, they flamed us. But you know what, man? I don't know. Maybe I just don't, uh, not that I don't care. And it's just more, look, everybody has their opinions and they're going to
Mhm.
stay their opinions.
Yeah.
I'd rather have, to your point, I think we're trying to get like this with this community we're trying to build. Just have an open, honest conversation with us, right? Don't just assume. I think we're two woke bros. I know that's not a way to say that now, but anyway, but we are ones who listen and are trying to learn. And so if you want to correct us, let us know, guys. Be open and honest with us, but don't assume that we just are saying things out our butt. We try to be as insightful about what we say. But nah, I'm glad you go through that, Mr. Benja, with the comments and stuff, and try to have insightful conversations. Because yeah, you wrote paragraphs over here, guys. This Mr. Benja could do a lot of things. He's out here writing paragraphs to the comment sections, man. Who does that? James,
This is
put that on wax. We write paragraphs back to our commenters.
no, don't raise the expectations. But no, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to actually for me to not have the conversation, not to have the discussion, not to have an argument. The fun part is, okay, how can I understand better where this person's coming from? Or how might this have gone wrong? Or why is this a subject for intense debate? And that's a never ending topic. I was about to say ever since, but it doesn't stop. The debate, the arguing over things that probably shouldn't be argued about in a lot of situations goes back to the beginning of humanity. So I am obviously not going to stop anything like that large, but I'm in there learning, having fun, and meeting all
Well, you
flame
know,
in the comments.
I love it. I love it. So, did you see some of the since we're talking about commenters in our YouTube channel? You wanna shout out one a couple ones that got a high likes here when we did the Black Superman. Do you wanna talk about that briefly? Or you want me to grab that other
Let me
topic?
I didn't jump into all those comments for the Black Superman. Let's see, but
Yeah,
yeah,
there was a couple that got some great likes and stuff. And look, we're gonna shout you guys out. Look, we wanna have conversations, man. This is what it's about. At Agent Maryland 1239 said, I don't understand the process of changing a character's ethnicity. I feel like that distracts the value from that character's existence. They don't exist to fit some social media agenda. They exist to bring entertainment to be loved and accepted by the community that grows from them. What we should be doing is making more new characters that come from more backgrounds, expanding on characters who generally take a back seat, much like the ones listed here. And I got 44 likes. And I think that kind of along the sentiment we were communicating in that short. So yeah, I think that's good. I think the community agrees with what we're saying here in this comment because I agree that the Black Superman, I think what you said, and I agree with it too. Let's do more original stories with black characters, superheroes that we already have, right? Not just try to what's the word? Not color wash, but I forgot what they call it, but change the color of the character to reflect something else, right? They don't have to do that. They just make more of the characters that already exist, that are already African American, make them better characters, right? Create a Rose Gallery, right, for the Blue Marble or for Black Lightning. Just create better villains, compelling stories. Black Panther, just
yeah,
can you name who Black Panther's number one villain is? I know I can't.
if you're talking about aside from Killmonger, there's
Oh,
oh,
Killmonger, that's right.
what's the other guy? But there's like 2 other guys he always goes up against, and if you're talking about Captain America, most people won't recognize Arnim Zola or a
True.
Red Skull. They recognize Red Skull, but there's the Baron, all these other characters. Taskmaster, which everybody poo-pooed on because for whatever reason, Taskmaster was played out like it was. Once again, being female wasn't the problem. It's the way they played the character. But yeah, anyway, I think one of those things about these types of discussions is people arguing over the tribes, like we said, people like us do things like this, or this is ours, this is not yours. And then people start talking about gatekeeping.
And
There are a lot of different ways to talk about this. I think we can go into the acolyte in a little bit on this, but it's a really difficult problem because I was talking with Andy and we realized something.
mhm,
I was looking at we were talking about some property, I forgot what it was, but I realized I was looking at it from a gamer's point of view because I play and develop games, or I used to, where I'm thinking of, I'm taking this character, I do these things, I aspire to do what this character does, I feel power in my hands, I'm playing out a certain role, that's me. That's me. So you don't change me. On the other hand, Andy, he comes from the world of theater,
mhm,
actual stage plays and things, curtains, lights, and all that. That's literally taking an idea and putting different people in the outfit to see how it plays out differently with
mhm,
different people, different characters. If we have the main character in Chicago doing a rendition of a play, what does that play look like if instead of a fat man in Chicago, we do tall, skinny Asian woman in that character's role when we run it in San Francisco?
mm,
And that's very valid as an art form. Let's see how the story plays out when we look at it from different angles. Let's see how these different characters play out. So I've noticed that mindset in a lot of people who are creating content, or when I'm saying content, creating these productions. They're like, hey, let's see what happens if we take the mantle of a character and we switch out another character. Let's see what
mhm,
happens to let's see that presentation.
mhm,
And for a long time, I didn't understand that because I was so deep in the gamer mindset of this is the character that does that thing. This is the character that does this thing.
mhm,
I was so in that mindset, it was hard for me to see that there are other ways to look at a character.
mm,
Not saying that they shouldn't be, and this goes back to the Black Superman example. I'm like, yeah, that's going Superman is one thing, does things a certain way. We have other characters that can better tell, I think, the black story. But then other people are like, why not have a black Superman? You saying we can't do it? We say, I'm like, that's a valid argument, but that's not what I'm
it is.
saying. So
Yeah. Look, we have a Black Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and he's got a whole different storyline and everything, and he's a beloved character. And I think That's possible as well, to your point. But I guess the way they present it sometimes almost become sensationalized, right? It's like, oh, hey guys, it would be cool a black Superman. You're like, wait a minute, hold up. I mean,
Right,
why would just? I think the way the marketing spin is they try to make it cooler than it is, as opposed to say, hey, there's this character. Oh, and by the way, he does this. He flies around. He came from a different planet. Blah 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, he's black. Because everything else, why do you
right.
have to steal his characteristics down to just his visual look, right? As opposed to what he does. And so I think that's in essence what Martin Luther King was talking about, right? The character, what's it, the inside the man, I'm getting the quote wrong, but the character, the content of their character, right? Not the look of their skin. So I think those are the things that we want to communicate more on this podcast. So Mr. Benja, man, you know what? People want to talk about they're not like this, they're not like that. Guess what, Mr. Benja? I'm
They
talking
not like
about, man. They're not like us, man. Are we gonna get into it, man?
that's what it all comes down to, essentially. They not like us.
They not like us. That's what we're talking about here, man. Mr. Benja, man, I'm gonna move on and talk about Kendrick Lamar blowing up social media on 4th of July with the release of They're Not Us, They Not Like Us video, man. So, Mr. Benja, first of all, where were you when you saw this? And then high level, what was your initial thoughts when you saw this and watched it a couple of times and to get it all in?
I'm glad that you said watched it a couple times because you knew automatically that I didn't just watch it once. I stopped and watched it a couple times. Yeah, man, this whole thing has been a bit of a master class on putting together a rollout of an art project. I'm gonna call this
Mhm.
whole thing an art project, and it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's been building up for years, several years. The subliminal disses from way back, the we talked about the messing with the industry and who you're faithful to and where you represent. When I saw this, man, the video dropped, and I think it was 3 hours in, 3 hours after it had been, released on YouTube. I noticed it, and I was like, "Huh, okay." I went to click on it, and it said somebody like, one of the first comments was, "Dang, it already got this many million views in 1 hour?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. This thing is blowing up." Even before watching it, I verified that the link was the actual video and posted it to one of my Facebook groups. And I was like, all right, let's bubble it over there. Let me watch this and then jump in the comments later. Man, I was impressed. This video, you're impressed when you don't understand everything, but you're like, wait, hold on, what was that? I don't even understand it. That's really intriguing right there. What was that? And I did that a few times during the video because there's just references and things that artistically, when you see something and it's intentional, but you don't understand it, you're like, okay, why was that in there? Why was that like that? I may come back to that later, or it may just be one of those things that I don't understand. Starting with the clown and everything, dog,
Mhm.
it's Tommy the Clown, by the way.
Yep.
It's awful.
Grandfather of crumpet. Let's put it out there. That's
Yeah,
just the art
a
form that
form of
came.
dancing. Yeah.
Yeah, that just came out of LA scene, right? So yes,
Mhm.
that's what they had to start with. Mr. Benja, not to interject here real quick, but I'm not an artist like you, right? But even I think you can just tell the depth and intentionality that goes into art, right? When you watch a movie or read a book, like, oh, they thought about this, right? Even Game of Thrones, man. Do you read? If you listen to some of the theories and stuff that go on, this guy created this whole world, thousands of years in his mind, and people have theories. They're scholars of game because of one guy. So that means
Yeah.
the depth of his knowledge is so deep when it comes to that. The intentionality is there, and that's why they're so beloved, right? The Game of Thrones series. Likewise, Kendrick Lamar came in just a depth of knowledge, very specific to LA, conversate the history of LA, what it means, but also still being part of the diss track and what does that mean and what he was doing there with OVO and the owl and all that.
Yeah.
And then just the connection to the community, being part of the crowd at the end and just saying, hey, they're not like us and I'm with y'all, I'm us. So it's just like this. And he conveyed through imagery everything he was saying in his words, right? And so I thought that, and then even little sub rips at some of the discs that came at him, dropping, giving 50, he's doing push-ups.
Yeah.
So it's just he knew it. As we talk about the beef itself, Mr. Benja, I think we all knew Kendrick won. He thoroughly defeated Drake so bad it's not even funny, man. Because obviously he came in probably more critically acclaimed hip hop artist, the one that's
Mhm.
lyrical, the one that's conscious. But Drake had the hits, right? He was
Mhm.
just dropping dimes. But then when Kendrick beat him at his own game, and now this is the song of the summer, the bop of the summer.
Yeah.
That's
Uh, and a highly lyrical one at that, which is more and more rare in this era, where it's not just a vibe, a summer vibe. There's actually some complicated stuff going on there with the musicality, the lyricism, the levels.
and the fact that it's so specific too. It's not just generalized. Oh, it's controller. This is a beat to this, or this is a beat to that. This is strictly an LA type of sound, LA type of vibe, but it's
Mhm.
universally loved. And I think they said there's universality in the specific, right? So if you're very specific with your storytelling, people can pull out of it different things. So you just have to be very specific. And so he is specific about LA. And if you know some of the LA folks that pop up in there, right? That's what it's about. And so I love that aspect.
Yeah, hats off, man. I was really impressed, and I wanna reiterate that it's not so much about Drake. Drake is a figurehead of a bigger problem where for decades now, we've watched hip hop become more and more, as far as media companies are concerned, we've watched hip hop get taken into this shell of itself where they're like, oh, okay, you guys like guns and dancing. Okay, more guns, more dancing. We're putting it out there like that. That's what we want to see. And no, you can't separate the plant from the soil. It'll die. It's, oh, we just want the pretty flowers and all that. And I was like, no, no, you can't separate the plant from the soil. And for years, that's what it seems like was happening. So now Kendrick comes back and I'm the soil. I'm here with all
Mm.
my we've got deep roots in this, literally and figuratively in many ways, roots.
I can't remember a time that this has created a whole new vibe for LA, right? LA is just such oh, people transplants, they try to be actors. There's no culture in LA. But do you remember NWA came out, blew up,
Yeah.
and that just put that sound, right? Because East Coast was always doing stuff. And I can't remember, there's been hits there, a few folks here and there. But I think this is the first time literally that LA is driving sound again when it comes to
Yeah.
music with Kendrick. So kudos to him.
Did you mean to wear that hat today?
If you don't know, I'm from LA, guys. Grew up in Culver City. And what? And if you don't know, also shout out to Bronny James being drafted by the Lakers.
Yes.
Lakers are not going to be good this year. I'm just telling you that because we got a coach that just coaches his son's was it fourth grade class, and now he's an NBA coach. But kudos to the Lakers, man. We're just gonna be memes all day. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm an LA fan, true and true. And grew up in LA, and so still in my heart. But maybe one day I get back out there, Mr. Benja. But yes, that's why I wrote to talk about Kendrick.
Yeah. So let me just throw some theories out there that people may have caught or may not have caught. There, the whole vibe of the music video, it's been told, is basically um, a trial. So it starts out them going into that when they go into that room, it's who has access to this whole trial that we're about to have. And it's a closed group of people. It's a closed kind of situation. It's not for everybody. And then right then you have his group of peers. Everybody's sitting down in the room. The DJ is like the judges stand. So it's like a classroom, a jury, a interrogation room. It's
Mm,
got so many different angles you could take from it that anybody who says they've got it all figured out, I almost don't believe you because that's not how a lot of art works. A lot of art just is stuff from different places that happens to work together.
mm.
And man, yeah, starting it with a group of a group of jurors, just if you want to look at it like that,
Even the part when he does that whole section, the whole verse, basically, where he's talking about Atlanta and he's trying to conflate how Drake is trying to colonize Atlanta, or colonizers did back in the day. And he mentions all the Atlanta rappers. I thought they were going to show up in this, but no, he said this is going to be strictly LA. So he just had the Crumpers just do different moves when he talked about the rappers like Future or Migos and stuff like that in that verse. So I thought that was interesting because that whole section to me is like, I know he's trying to prove a point to Drake, but it's not really LA. It's really saying Atlanta still is the driving force when it comes to rap and hip hop. So that's interesting to me how he did not have him appear at all. I think he wanted to make it very specific to Los Angeles culture, right?
Yeah. And you ever eat at Tam's Burgers?
No, LA,
Okay.
no.
Okay, that was the place he was dancing at with what was his name? Dave.
Okay.
There's the guy who executive produced it, and people keep wondering why do they keep putting this guy Dave's name out there? Apparently, they were supposed to have some beef, and they're out there dancing in front of a burger joint, just like two guys going to have a burger, and it's, "Oh, we beefing? Nah, man, we eating burgers and fries. What you talking about? What you talking about?"
Didn't see what. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, man. Kudos to guys. Look, man, I guess every 4th of July we should expect something big. So last year was Threads, like we mentioned earlier.
Oh,
This year was Kendrick Lamar. So I'm,
I
I'm
forgot that
expecting
it
next
dropped
year.
on the 4th.
Yep. Next year, 2025. We're looking at in 2025. Isn't that the I want to say that's like the 250th anniversary of America. But anyway, I'll look it up. But yeah, man, we gotta have some good stuff, man, coming out from somebody next year around this time.
Yeah, if you don't have a blockbuster movie, maybe you have a blockbuster hit song and movement.
Exactly. Good point.
And we got everybody out here trying to learn how to blood walk now, and they're trying to figure out the differences between blood walking and crit walking. And
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna
it's
be America's 250th birthday on July 4th, 2025. So
yeah.
there you go.
Was there anything else you wanted to get into?
Yeah. Do you want to do politics, man? We don't talk politics much on this pod, but I think we gotta say a few things real quick, especially in the
So
intersection of culture, entertainment
yeah.
overall. But did you have some things about what happened recently at the BET Awards?
So at the BET Awards, Taraji P. Henson came out and jumped in the camera and was like, "Man, y'all better pay attention. It's Project 2025. Trump's talking noise. Y'all go look it up." And what was interesting is she didn't like she didn't say too much right there, but she was basically like a call to action. Hey, y'all been rocking with me on all these posts and everything. Now I want you to go see why you need to vote. Research this dude, research what he's trying to do. And apparently the Google searches spiked, the video searches spiked, the Wikipedia page got shredded. Everybody's in there editing it. It's getting updated all the time. So I was like, wow, that was one of those really quick out of the blue political moments, and Taraji put a lot of people on it. So yeah, I was just like, all right, cool. We're getting back to politics. Let's go.
It was funny. Project 25, I heard about it. I don't know about you, but I heard about it. I heard about it a couple of months ago, and then I heard it again from John Oliver. He did one of his Sunday posts. And I was like, oh, this is scary. So then I don't know, it just got in the zeitgeist then. And so I just been hearing it all the time now. And so when Taraji put it out there, yeah, and that's obviously the Trump organization. They don't want that to get out because they know they're on the precipice of maybe getting more black voters or come on their side. And so when that kind of got released, I saw here that Trump disavows Project 2025 transition plan. And we're not going to get into details on it, but basically it's just this whole kind of almost medieval kind of thing where backhanded way where they're going to be prepared to take over huge swaths of the government with their type of people, right, in these roles that supposedly are not supposed to be political kind of positions. They're just the functionaries that run the government. But the hope of this Project 2025 is to have these people in place so that they can continue on the legacy of Trump even after he's gone after 4 years. And so it becomes scary because they did something similar like this with the courts, right? Let's be honest. Trump was able to replace 3 justices, right? And so that
Mhm.
changed the balance of the court so much that they repealed Roe versus Wade. So it's one of the things that I think if you whether side of the aisle you're on, but I would say this: if you're a Democrat, you're losing bad because they're playing out here chess on you guys, man, between the courts and now this. And so now this is out there. This is a big thing, and people are talking about. But let's be honest, Mr. Benja. I mean, I don't know. We don't, like I said, we don't talk politics much. But I saw that debate between Biden and Trump, and
Mhm.
literally, I put here. It started at 9 p.m. At 9:07, I text my mom and dad. I said Trump won. See y'all next year.
Man,
That
man.
was so terrible, man. And it shakes your head about the state of what's happening in the country right now. But
Yeah, here's a real quick quote. I went to the Project 2025 website, and the first thing they say, it's not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we are going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. And then it goes on to break down some four pillars they have.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? And be honest with you, even though Biden losing bad, this could be the thing that ultimately sways people away from Trump again. It's one thing he's Trump, whatever, and idolizing the leader, if you will. But if there's some nefarious things that go on behind the scenes that they're trying to put in place to solidify certain things, I don't know a lot of people can go with that, man. So this may be the thing that bubbles up for the last, what they say, the 30, what they did, the September surprise. This may be the thing that pops up on the radar again. And so be mindful of that. One thing I did want to say, we want to talk about like just our angle, which is look, guys, business, we talk about show business, we don't talk about politics. But The Boys, we talked about how The Boys TV show is mocking a lot of the Trumpism with Homelander. And they had a storyline this last episode where they talked about this kind of moving coup of trying to get the right people in the right place, right? From a politics standpoint. So
Yeah.
now the storyline is becoming more aligned with what we're experiencing now. And it's almost like getting to a point where is this entertaining anymore? So it's one of these things that are interesting how show business tries to intervene with politics. And I don't know if that works well.
Yeah. What you mean as a show doesn't work well?
Yeah, when it becomes
Okay.
so over, when it's just a silly little show, fine. But now they're saying literally words verbatim from January 6th of things that people have said in the show. And it's okay, look, we get it. And to your point, we don't like that thumb on the scale type of storytelling. Let people come to their own conclusions.
And to make it even better, if any comedian ever explains why a joke is funny, you immediately remove the funniness from it. I think that's along the same line. It's, hi, let me explain to you why this show is important. And let me explain to you why it's like, okay, now you've taken the artistry out of it. Now you're just saying something. So,
Hey,
yeah,
real
there's,
quick, before we leave that, since we're talking about BET awards, did you see Childish Gambino? I know this is totally off topic, but you see what he said
oh,
on
yes, yes, Sam
would
Smith. Let's
you
go.
shots fired, bang. Go ahead, Childish Gambino. Yeah, he got more Grammy awards than BET awards. He said, I have the same number of BET awards as Sam Smith.
Sam Smith, for those of you who don't know, we got to throw a picture up there. Not exactly the image of Black America.
Shots fired? Bitter Mark?
Yeah, man, I'm with them. If you watch Atlanta, it's yeah, that's Donald Glover, that's Childish Gambino, and that's where we are. Why didn't they get more push from BET? Once again, BET is no longer owned by Robert Johnson and a black coalition, so it's white owned and it's selling a black image to black people in order for them to create content that's consumed mostly by white people, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, real talk. And that's the challenge with black media, I think. I'll be honest with you, Mr. Ben. Sometimes I think that any black media that gets too big, I don't know if it's really for us, if that makes sense.
Right.
Breakfast Club, love them, but is there agenda there? People who show up on there, they know they can talk to a black audience. That's fine. Breakfast Club, fine. What's the other one? We talked about Invest Fest, right? Those guys, right? Earn Your Leisure. And they having another Invest Fest in August. I don't know how it was going to be received, but I'm seeing same folks coming in talking to black folks, right? About some agenda. I think the last announcement they talked about Van Jones is going to show up. He's got $100 million from Jeff Bezos on how to get black folks involved in AI. Sound like an agenda to me. Stuff like that is just like when you talk about
Yeah.
black media, how much is it for us or is it for them to talk to us? Does that make sense?
Yes, have them they're looking for an audience, and it's a very I mean, Black entertainment television as an entity, BET, is a very well packaged group, a certain demographic of the Black community, obviously. And if you can influence that, you're going to be influencing a large population of the Black image, not the population of the Black image, a large segment of the Black image, because that's what's being put out there. And I don't know, maybe Grant Cardone needs a show on there to prove he's down.
I love it, man. Oh man, Grant Cardone, man, don't get me started. It's just the pandering to black people, man. That's the thing I don't like, man. It's just we contain multitudes, and we're all gonna be. And just BET, man. I watch it with my kids. It's unwatchable, man. They put what's that one? Sexy Red. It's just like these characters. They look like plants, keeping
Yeah,
us
yeah,
in this little go red, go sexy red. She just barely rapping. I don't even know she's. I'm not saying. I know it sounds like an old guy, right? Yeah,
yeah,
kids get off my lawn, but there's no artistry there. She just twerking, saying some words, and you can see that any Saturday night in Atlanta. And it's so she's the one they're putting out there as this artist. So it's do we trust BET? Do we trust that to move the culture forward a little bit? I know they try, they have some uplifting folks here and there, and Mr.'s been around forever. He had a BET award.
yeah,
But some of these things I think, and I look me and I was very honest with my kids. I think, guys, it was great to watch this and it's catchy, but this is not true artistry. You guys know that. Come on, I
yeah.
raised you better than that.
So, real quick history, there was MTV, and then there was MTV, BET, and VH1. MTV and VH1, both owned by the same company. VH1 took a lot of the R&B elements and started trying to copy what BET was doing from the R&B side. MTV took a lot of the rap and a lot of the jams and was trying to copy what BET was doing on the hip hop and pop side.
Mm,
So they started actually taking characters, taking people in the industry, taking even workers, like people who worked at BET and putting them into VH1 and MTV to try to get it more hip, more in the line of BET, which was where the culture was. And this goes back to Not Like Us, so it all connects. At some point, they said, "You know what? We've taken enough from them. Why don't we just take them?" So Viacom ended up getting hold of BET at some point, and now it's okay, we have a golden goose here. Let's kill it as quickly as possible.
mm. Yeah, and if you don't know, Paramount, we talked about this, Paramount trying to get sold out, and so they had a offer recently that got rejected. So they still and if you don't know, Paramount Global owned BET. So the rumor was they're gonna try to spin it off. We talked about who's gonna buy it. I don't think Diddy's in that conversation anymore, but we talked about what's his name, Tyler Perry probably potentially being a buyer. But so that could still be in play. I would like to get to a black buyer, but we'll see. It's gonna be interesting. But it's still relevant? Is BET still relevant? I think maybe for the BET Awards, but I just don't know if it's as relevant as you we know MTV is not relevant anymore by far. So
Yeah.
BET, can it still be relevant in the age of TikTok and YouTube? I don't know.
Yeah. And once again, it's this whole commodification thing that Kendrick is fighting against that you're seeing in the lyrics. So when you think about the diss, don't think about it just as a diss. Think about it as fighting against this establishment, this commodification. I mentioned Viacom, you mentioned Paramount, Sony's even in the mix, and it's there's a lot going on, but it's a commodification of culture, and it's interesting. I'm glad you had an interesting fourth.
Real quick, we had before we head out, Mr. Benja, let's just talk about the Acolyte real quick.
Oh,
Have you been
okay.
keeping up with the shenanigans going on with the Acolyte lately? I know you don't haven't
No, no,
watched it yet.
I know the shenanigans, a little bit of it, but once again, a lot of it's not about the show. It's about other stuff. So I'm just gonna wait till it's all out there, and then I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch them, and then I'll
yeah.
be happy.
There's a lot going on with this show right now. It obviously it's set in the time of Star Wars that we never seen before, and so but there's a lot of like I mentioned to you before, we talked about this, right? There's a lot of people bringing a political kind of spin to this storyline. And I sent some articles about this. I think, and I'll read this just verbatim. It says a backlash against the Acolyte, which I think I realized started a year before the show even released, which is true based on who was cast, right? We talked about that previously. And I think there's a sign of something far more nefarious and damaging. We're not talking about the Star Wars fans who have legitimate complaints for the show. There's another group of individuals who neither seem to understand the basic lore of Star Wars and have just migrated to the Star Wars fandom in order to express their political opinions. And I would say that's true, Mr. Benja. I'm seeing folks that now some guys been around for a minute. I'm not gonna name names right now, but there's some guys been a minute. But the critical drinker, obviously, he's if you ever listening with his some of his YouTube stuff, he swings absolutely to the right. And so there's a lot of spin that he's talking about. And so for someone that hates the show so much, he sure has a comment like every episode the show comes out. So why are you still watching it? Why are you still talking about the show? Because that's getting you the views. And there's other folks out there that put comments about the Acolyte. And to my point of view, I said, let's like, I'm with you. I said, let's see the whole thing when it comes out. But there's also the people on the other side who are probably maybe being too generous to the show, right? There are some legitimate issues with this show. They're not really communicating effectively. And then you got the people in the middle, right? Which true fans who try to understand the lore and try to understand what this is trying to do and they're trying to split the middle, and it's becoming confusing, and it sucks because as a genre of storytelling, we all got into this not to talk about politics, but we want to talk about Star Wars, right? And our love for it
Yeah.
and the cool lightsabers. But now we're getting to these political battles, man. Let's just talk about if this good or not, and is it exciting to watch? And I think that's where genre storytelling is becoming is it's starting to get sickening a little bit, and I hate that in
Yeah.
here in Star Wars.
Yeah. And real quick, one thing I want to clear up, a lot of people seem to argue, they say, hey, Star Wars has always been woke. You're confused about media literacy. You don't understand what you're watching. And it's a show. Yeah, yeah. I don't know any. Uh, there are some extremes. I'm not talking about the extremes, but there are people that are watching this on the right that understand completely that, okay, yeah, that's something we don't want. We don't want another authoritarian regime. We don't want the fascism. We don't want all this stuff. Both sides will argue that. And then it's got to be understood that's not a, I don't want to say valid, that's not a concrete argument because you're assuming that the person on the other side doesn't understand that and doesn't have another point of view. It's there are things created by right wing people that left wing people get into, and it happens all the time. But so yeah, people were talking about, dude, you're so stupid. You don't even know what woke is. You don't even know that it's talking about you until you get to the Homelander and the boys type of thing. I'm sorry. That's just an argument that needs to be further developed because right now it's juvenile and it's you're missing the point if you think that your point is that strong.
Oh, well said, Mr. Benjamin. Man, I think we covered man all of it today. Very, I like the timely theme of like us. They're not like us. I think this is going to be one for the book. So I'm sure we're going to have some interesting comments. So guys, look, as you can tell, we listen to your comments, we read them, we listen, we read your comments, we comment on your comments sometimes. So please keep them coming. We love them. So, Mr. Benja, anything else going on this week for you?
I want to be reading the comments. Yes. Actually, I'm working on a project. So a lot of you who know me and who follow me on my email, check me out. You'll be probably getting some messages from me. So everything's in flow. But yeah, I'm going to have a good week.
Yeah, same here, brother. Same here, man. I'm ready for it. So, everyone, thank you for your time. Please subscribe and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter or X, YouTube, or Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit us at our website at Show versus Business and check out some information there if you're interested in starting your own YouTube channel and podcast. Mr. Benja, have a great one.
Peace.